Hey guys, it's Adam aka Swimming Bird, and welcome to Splatoon. The 2.6.0 update is out, the first of 3 that are planned to release in the next few months. We're going to cover all of the changes and play some ranked mode using a few of the gear abilities that got some major buffs in this update. Now, no new weapons this time. Volume 1 and Volume 2 of the weapon updates will be arriving later. The first one will be in April, so we'll get some new weapons later on. But for now, there are tons of changes to talk about. Now, a few stages were changed to be the Splat Zones version during Turf Wars. You don't get the zone, but you get expanded maps for Moray Towers and Arowana Mall. That's more turf and less choke points in the middle of the map, so chargers won't be as dominant on those maps, and there's more places to hide, and like I mentioned, more turf for you to cover in Turf Wars. So Moray Towers is now pretty much identical in Turf Wars to its Splat Zones version, but Arowana Mall, it's pretty much the same as Splat Zones, except the grates that connect the side platforms, the high side platforms where a lot of the chargers like to hang out, those are not in the Turf Wars version of the map. Matchmaking and team assignments have been adjusted as well. Now in the past, with ranked battles like this one, team assignments were completely random, but now they're going to consider what weapon you're using when they assign you on a team. That way, you won't have as many teams with 4 chargers or 4 rollers, stuff like that. Trying to work on some balancing. Now, if you just eyed that killer whale to the side, that's another change that I want to mention. This is something I've brought up so many times if you've watched my videos and streams. The killer whale is so difficult to see whether you're inside of it or outside of it when it shoots off. Now they have changed the animation. It's not as thick to see through, if that makes sense, when it is getting ready to fire. So you can see much better where it's shooting and whether you're in there or out of there. I'm very happy with that change. And the one I mentioned just before, the weapon balancing is amazing now. On Turf Wars, you're not going to get those weapon balances, unfortunately, but maybe they'll add that in later. It is nice to have that in ranked. Now, ranked matchmaking is a bit different as well. If you are in the following paired ranks, you're not going to see each other as often in matchmaking unless there's a severe lack of players to fill out the match times. They'll have more people jump in if that's the case. But for now, S plus and S should not be fighting each other as often. S and A plus, A minus and B plus, and then B minus and C plus. So basically, if you're too far apart in rank, even that little jump in rank, they're trying to match up people with a similar rank more often. That way, it's not as tough for those lower ranked players. Now, if you are in a ranked battle and someone disconnects, or you have unavoidable situations like that, the patch notes say that the winning team actually, there's that killer whale again, the patch notes say the winning team doesn't get as many points if you have a disadvantage that's unfair like that, but it seems like that might be wrong because I played a few matches and it seems like you don't lose as many points, but it could be both now. They could have adjusted it to both, so we'll have to see. Time will tell, and maybe they'll correct that if that's wrong. There we go. Got the tower there. That was an insane match. One more killer whale to show you guys. So you can see when the killer whale's firing off, still has that very thick kind of, reverberating bass shooting out that is that's hard to see through. But when it's getting ready to fire, it's a lot easier to see. All right, let's do another match here, and I'll get into the Splatfest changes as well as all the gear changes. You probably saw I'm using Bomb Sniffer, and there's a very good reason. I'm also leveling some other gear to try some stuff out. Okay, so let's start with the Splatfest changes before we get in all the cool gear stuff. During Splatfest, the vibe meter, that little meter that said so hot, the meter that gives you the coins from Judd, if you get a lot of wins in a row, that will be changed to be a new thing called Splatfest Power. Now, your initial power level, the number, will be based off of your ranked battle rank, so that's how they started out. And it will change depending on winning or losing. It'll go up or down, and the only thing this is used for, other than determining what points you get, is who you're matched up against. This is a way they're trying to balance the players in the Splatfest a little bit more, so beginners play with beginners, and more advanced players play with better, more advanced players that they'll have a challenge against a little bit more to balance it out so the wins aren't so lopsided. Now, you get points for winning and, lose them for losing, and the player with the highest Splatfest power on the winning team will get a larger boost to their Splatfest power than their teammates. So it's kind of trying to, the MVP is getting pushed into better matches, or not better, but more high-level matches. There's a bunch of killer whales going off, so you get a really good shot at that. So yeah, that's going to be a little easier to play against players of your level. And now the grouping, it's not going to favor similar playstyles. It's going to be Splatfest power based, and if you have a higher Splatfest power, you'll get more Splatfest points after winning. So you really want to have a higher power. It'll help you level up faster and get max rank, so you get those super sea snails. Also has the added effect of making more skilled players maybe not play as long during the Splatfest, because if they're gonna get max rank, they might be done. Anyways, we'll see how that works out, if that balances the Splatfest. So the gear abilities, real quick here. Ink Saver main, one of my favorites. It now saves 45% of the ink that's possible to save when you use your main weapon instead of 40%. Ink Saver sub, this is a big one, 35% saved instead of 25% for sub weapons. That ability was not very good, so that really needed that buff. Ink Recovery up now will increase your maximum possible ink recovery rate to 82% from 67%, so that's another great buff there. Special Duration up. It is now possible for the Ink Zuka and the Bomb Rush to have a maximum duration from 60, or it'll add 60% if you stack it up enough instead of 40. So that'll help you fire off those bombs and Ink Zuka shots a little longer. And then also, it's really cool, they added this ability. If you have Special Duration up, it usually was kind of useless for the Killer Whale and the Ink Strike, since they always fire off the same amount. But now, the way they've balanced that is the startup animation has been decreased. So if you have a lot of Special Duration up abilities, that means you can fire off your Killer Whale, your Ink Strike a lot faster and get moving again, so you're safer. Now, Opening Gambit, it's changed from boosting the speed in Inkling and Squid forms to increasing the efficiency of your main gear abilities for all three pieces of your main gear for the first 30 seconds of battle. Pretty good. Not necessarily the best, because it only lasts for a little bit, but that's a nice little buff. Now, Last Ditch Effort is really good in ranked battle now. It will activate when the opposing team's counter reaches 30, so when they're getting ready to win, it'll help you out a ton, and it will remain active until the end of the battle. It will go into overtime as well, and it now also shortens the amount of time players take to respawn after they're being splatted, so probably a really good ranked ability, especially for comebacks. There also is the comeback ability, which will now trigger special charge up as well when you have that on. I've got that on my little hat here. Tenacity will increase special gauge refill rate by 20% when it's active, so when you have less players or one has died on your team and respawning. Haunt is really good now. It will now increase your attack power, defense, and Inkling movement speed when you're marked by the enemy. So that is, anytime you have a point sensor or echolocator on you, I think that's a good thing to have, because a lot of people have been using those more often, and you get a big buff to help you when people are tracking you. So that's a huge buff to Haunt. Recon, now when you're standing on the spawn point, it will stay in effect for 3.5 seconds after you leave, and it also shows your enemy's weapons on the map screen, which is pretty cool. Still not maybe the best ability in my opinion, but it needed that buff. And last but not least, my favorite, I'm going to use Bomb Sniffer now instead of Ink Resistance up, I believe, because Bomb Sniffer, for the first 100 points of damage from bombs, it will reduce it by 20% for burst bombs and 40% for splat bombs, suction bombs, seekers, and ink mines, meaning you can now survive a bunch of bombs that you would not have been able to before. A direct hit will still get you, but there we go. If it clips you, you'll probably survive more likely. That's how you do it. Just ploop through the net and get the win. All right, and for Bomb Sniffer, the damage values that decrease is not affected, or it is affected by attack up and defense up, but that's not calculated in that rate. So 40%, 20%, pretty big damage resistance against those bombs. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you're excited for the new update. Please leave a like if you enjoyed this, and I will see you guys next time for some more Splatoon when I've got some new gear ready to go. Goodbye.